On the point of political leadership, I want to once again refer to your book, Dr. Swami. You draw a contrast between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Dr. Manmohan Singh. And while you praise the former, you also add that you have a fundamental problem with the approach adopted by the people he's surrounded by. Would you, first of all, tell me what the issue is? Because most of the people he's been surrounded by are individuals who have come from abroad, have great on-paper qualifications, and have been very effective administrators. So I would like you to first explain what is the issue.
Well, everybody thought that Raghuram Rajan was highly qualified. Yes, he had a PhD from MIT. But he was not an economist. He was a financeman. In economics, the real economics is not microeconomics. That any shopkeeper can tell you. The real economics is macroeconomics. It's a general equilibrium system where you push, if you do something in one sector, it has an effect all through in other sectors. That's why in the Depression, the American president made the mistake of thinking that he could wipe out unemployment by reducing wage rates, by pleading with the trade unions that till the elections are over, his re-election was coming up. And he said, till that time, you accept a 10% cut in your wages. And that 10% cut in wages was followed up by increasing unemployment, because when you cut wages, you also cut purchasing power. And that reduces demand. And therefore, firms which are on the borderline, they start collapsing. And that's how unemployment grows. The same mistake Mr. Raghuram Rajan made, saying that I have to raise interest rates to control inflation. But when you raise interest rates, then the cost of capital for medium and small and medium industries rises. And all of them are on the borderline. And they collapse one after the other. And that is what today's high employment is due to. So all these people who Narendra Modi's government selected had no clue about macroeconomics.
Would you name some of them?
Well, Arvind Subramaniam. Then, of course, I already named Raghuram Rajan. The finance minister, Mr. Jaitley, didn't know ABC of economics. And that problem is continuing.
What is the problem with the current finance minister?
Well, I mean, she's hardly been there. But her approach is now quite clear. It's not a macro approach. And this sudden wiping out of taxes of what, 2.4 crores, lakh crores or something? 1.4 lakh crores. I mean, it's not part of any package. And that means you have no understanding what the real problem is. The real problem is that demand is low. So if you give corporates more money, they can only increase supply. But the demand, the real thing where she should have done it is abolish income tax. That would have raised the demand.
Which is one of his prescriptions. We'll come to that in just a few moments. I just want to read a little bit about what you have said about the current Prime Minister, and this is important. He says, he has immense appeal with the masses and hard-working middle classes, and thus the mandate to carry out major reforms. He's honest in money matters. Lack of academic background has made him dependent on his friends and chosen ruthless ministers who never tell him the bitter truth about the economy or explain the macroeconomics, or that he needs to figure the way out of a crisis. Hence, we have witnessed the folly of demonetization and the inanity of the goods and services tax, both of which have accelerated the tailspin of the economy. So this is the new word that you brought in, and you elaborate on why you called it a tailspin, also in the book. But as the Prime Minister, he's a domineering figure who brooks no political competition. His reliance on unelectable political advisors and colleagues for clues on complex subject of the economy, which they know little about, or even lettered but timid economists appointed by him to posts of huge perks, results in them telling the Prime Minister only that he wants to hear. This is a frightening potpourri for the nation. Now, political leadership is very important. Can you absolve Narendra Modi here? Fine, he has the wrong people. But then if things are not working, he needs to react.
Well, I'll give you the answer first as a politician, then as an economist. As an economist, I have nothing but admiration. He keeps winning elections, and that's what we want.
As a politician.
As a politician, yes. Sorry.
Someone would say now that politics is also a numbers game. So maybe economy comes in there too. You have to back of the
economy will come in when firms start collapsing, banks starts closing, and factories, start slashing heavily on employment. That stage is at least a few months away if the present trends continue. But he has a rapport with the public, and the public still has a lot of faith in him. His inability the culture which he has demonstrated already in Gujarat and today in the last 5.5 years or thereabouts, shows that in the cabinet there is no discussion. It's mostly a kind of a roll call. So how can you blame him in one sense, because nobody is telling him what he needs to know? Take, for instance, demonetization. Actually, in 2014, just over end of 2013 and towards 2014, it was Narendra Modi who told the then president of the party, Gadkari, that you appoint Swami as a chairman of Strategic Action Committee to tell us what are the things we need to do for once we come to power. And demonetization was recommended by me. But I made conditions that you will have in your stock 6 times the 100 rupee notes that you have today, in new 100 rupee notes. 2, that you will, if you are bringing high denomination notes, new notes, then make sure that the ATMs are designed for that size, or that you repeat the same size, but you have a new note. And 3rd is, tell people that you can deposit your cash in your own bank account. Government will ask no questions, and take away 15% as tax. And you can withdraw 25% of new cash for you, and the rest will be 60% will be in fixed deposit for 5 years.
Yes.
I said there will be no queue. I had said in that time itself there will be no queues, nothing. Now, the finance ministry didn't tell him, the Reserve Bank didn't tell him that they have not printed new notes of the size we want. Then there was no way except to go to banks and stand in a queue and change your cash. And finally, Sri Ravi Shankar asked me, can you give a suggestion in December? And I gave the same suggestion, that you ask people to stop going to banks and deposit in their own account. But it went to the finance ministry, and the finance ministry said government should take 50% of the cash that you give as tax. Now, why would anybody go for that? Because the bank employees were coming privately, informally, and saying, you give us 15%, and we'll give you cash delivered at home. You don't have to come.
So it became a scam.
So, yeah, it was a scam,
That's what you
but
mentioned.
then this was unimplementable. So these are the things where the details of what needs to be done, he's not familiar with, because he's not trained for that.
But Dr. Swami, in your book, while you are criticizing demonetization and holding it to account for a lot of ills, you in a speech did say that 50% of its objectives had been accomplished.
Yes.
That was, I think, in Seoul,
Yes.
when you were in South Korea.
Yeah.
Did you jump the gun, or did you think the intent was right, or did you at that time not know that the implementation was as awry as it turned out to be?
I had said, whenever you take a measure, 50% is the shock value. And that shock value was achieved. But the remaining 50%...
You said terror was down. You said...
Yes, that's right. Terror financing had come down very substantially. And in the beginning, the counterfeit notes out of fright was not coming out. But later on, it also came and got recycled through the Reserve Bank and became new legal Indian notes. That's why they're not declaring how much money.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.